Federal Reserve just raised interest rates by a quarter point. This is the 10th rate hike in a row and puts the benchmark rate between 5 and 5.25%. That's a 16-year high. Meanwhile, lawmakers are gridlocked on the looming debt ceiling. Republicans have a plan to cut spending. Democrats don't want to negotiate. So could we see Democrats default on America? Let's bring in the president of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, Matthew Johnson. Matt, good to have you. Thanks for being here. So taking a look at the bigger picture here, we have the recent bank collapses, the U.S. possibly defaulting on its debt, concerns of de-dollarization, and now another interest rate hike. We know the Fed is, still trying to bring down the very high inflation, and it is working, but at what cost?
Well, it's coming at the cost of Americans, and thank you for having me on today. It's great to be on. Yeah, this is the makings of a perfect storm, isn't it? We've got everything financial that's going on. And when you have politicians that are not talking to one another, they're not trying to agree, it seems, in any way, shape, or form with regards to the debt ceiling. We've got the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, which we know is contracting and squeezing the economy. It's potentially going to have implications and create credit crunches. It's putting the American family and the American business in a very precarious position. It's a bit of a pickle for them. And every time we see rates go up, every single time we see the extenuating circumstances of those rates going up with, increased layoffs and things of that nature, it just squeezes that American a little bit more. It squeezes their retirement, and it brings us a little bit closer, I believe, to that precipice of a potential recession, which we know is not good at all for our standing in the global economy.
Yeah, let's talk about the debt ceiling now. House Republicans have come up with a plan to increase the U.S. debt limit. The plan includes spending cuts like to the IRS, the student loan forgiveness program, and clawing back the unused COVID funds. That's just to name a few. Biden says he's against spending cuts. It's not negotiable. But if the Democrats default on America, it would result in the interruption of vital services like Social Security checks, Medicare payments, which would greatly harm Americans. And hardworking families can't be dealt another blow after the devastating effects of extended lockdowns.
Yeah, it seems like we just got our feet back underneath us, and now we're going to be heading into another potential financial storm where we can't really have the income that we need, even though we're living in an inflationary environment. The irony of all of this is that we know that we have seen over 78 debt ceiling increases over the last 63 years. When you think about it, that's just ludicrous. But the reality is that it seems as though even though you and I, as human beings that have a household, we're responsible for that household, if we overspent, there would be implications. We would have to go into bankruptcy. We would end up having to go out and get a second job. It seems that politicians are the only ones that think that they can keep just raising the debt ceiling. But the reality is that they have to do something because we simply don't have the time. If we know the details behind the letter that was sent by Janet Yellen, she's saying basically D-Day for us is June 1st. We might have maybe a couple of extra days in there, but they have to be able to make some sort of a concession. So I agree in many respects that our government needs to rein in spending. There is so much unnecessary, wasteful spending that's going on, and we need to get a real handle on that. Otherwise, we are going to lose our position as a global authority in this world, and it's doable. It's just a matter of agreement and coming to concession between both sides.
Yeah, hopefully we can get something done. The government could get something done soon because that deadline, as you mentioned, is moved up now to June 1st. So maybe you can help me understand this a little bit more. The administration says the economy is strong, unemployment is low, but it seems like people are getting laid off left and right. Explain how that is, and if the labor force participation rate can provide some more context.
Well, I think that's a really good question because I think it's the question that most people are asking. How can we have such low unemployment and have all of these layoffs? It's just happening with every corporation. If we think about every single corporation that we've seen in the news that's suggested that they're laying off, it just seems astounding. But I think that there is two plausible reasons. Reason number one is if we just go back 2 to 3 months ago, we know that within our country, Alicia, there was basically 2 job openings for every 1 person that was unemployed. Now, those job openings are, I don't see as many of them as I look through the various different sectors of the economy, but we also have to take into account potentially the second reason. And that is when we consider the 2024, I believe it's in February of 24, we're going to be at the height of the baby boomer generation retiring. We're going to have somewhere in the vicinity of around $12,000 people per day that are going to be retiring in February of 2024. I think many of these workers that have been laid off, they simply have been laid off and said, that's it, I'm retiring. And so they don't come back into the labor force. So I think that it's a combination of those two things, potentially more, but I think it is a pretty good explanation as to why we're seeing what appears to be just kind of the cognitive dissonance between those two numbers.
Got it. So more and more people are just not looking for jobs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matthew Johnson, Johnson Wealth and Income Management. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.